Right friends, welcome back to Learning Space. This is Union Budget 2021-22. It is divided into three parts. The first part talks about an overview. That means it is basically introduction, what all statistics talk about. At the same time, what are the major highlights of the budget and what is the central theme of Union Budget. These are discussed in first part. In second part, we are going to look at in detail two prominent pillars, because in the Union Budget, 6 pillars are presented, and we are going to discuss in the second part two prominent pillars. And in the last part, we are going to discuss 4 other pillars and critical appraisal. This is how the Union Budget is being presented in 3 parts. Right friends, if someone asks, what is the central theme of Union Budget 2021-22? Let me tell you, it is basically infrastructure financing. That is the central theme. The second most important theme is concentrate on health and well-being. You cannot separate health from that of clean water and sanitation. So therefore, health and well-being, these are integrated as a single concept. So that is the second prominent theme, you can say. So friends, in a nutshell, in the Union Budget, there are 2 important central themes. The first one and the most important theme is how to look at infrastructure financing. Second one is you cannot separate clean drinking water and sanitation from that of good health. So therefore, health and well-being, that is being promoted as the first pillar. So friends, first and second pillars, as mentioned in the Union Budget, these are most important. Now let us look at Economic Survey 2021. We already presented 4 modules. 4 more modules are going to be presented. What Economic Survey said? Please recollect 3 important points. First one is, don't bother about fiscal deficit. Don't bother about your debt. Focus on spending. These are unusual times because of COVID-19. Please burst the fiscal deficit if required. Don't bother about debt because you are having interest rate less than growth rate if everything goes well. That means in 21-22, the economy is expected to grow at 11% and nominal GDP growth rate is expected to be at around 15% or so. Don't bother about bursting the fiscal deficit. And if required, you burst the fiscal deficit. Don't bother about debt because our growth rates, if they are higher than interest rate, debt sustainability is not a problem. That is the first message given by the Economic Survey. The second message is don't bother about the credit rating agencies. They always cry, if required, borrow more and spend more. Don't bother about credit rating agencies. That is the second message. Third message is don't bother about inequalities across the globe. There is a clamor for increasing inequalities. Don't bother about increasing inequalities. Let us concentrate on high growth. Give more importance to growth so that poverty can be eliminated. Poverty can be reduced. So we can think about inequality later on. First, let us try to increase the pie of the gross domestic product. These 3 are the critical messages given by our Economic Survey 2021. Taking a cue from this Economic Survey, what the budget has done is, the most important pillar is emphasis on infrastructure financing. That means this is unusual times because of COVID-19. The best way is spend. That leads to trickle down and that leads to demand creation. So spending more by the government and facilitating the environment for private sector spending. These 2 are the focal aspects of Union Budget. First one is increasing government spending. That means the government planned for around 6.8% of this fiscal deficit as percentage of GDP. Friends, government is planning to increase capital expenditure. Government is planning to mobilize the resources by monetization of assets. I am going to explain them a short while from now. At the same time, it is planning to create enabling environment for the private sector financing. Enabling environment. How the enabling environment is planned to be created? Because you see, for the infrastructure creation, this is infrastructure creation, and for infrastructure creation, government alone cannot do much. There are limitations by the government, and government not only spending as much as possible, that is what is government attempted by increasing the capital expenditure, and on the other hand, government provided enabling environment for the private sector. What is this enabling environment? First one is create bad bank. By creating bad bank, banks will transfer bad loans to bad bank. And in that way, what happens? Banks will be free of all these bad loans. Banks will have freedom. Banks will have, without botheration, they can go for lending. That is the first important aspect. That means the creation of bad bank, the proposal for bad bank is in the banking system, whatever bad loans are there, of course, at present there are several mechanisms for resolution of the bad debt, but still the burden is on the banking administration, the burden is on the bank management. Let us free the bank management from the hassles of these bad loans. These bad loans will be handed over to some other organization. That organization will take care of bad loans. So friends, that is bad bank. So creation of bad bank will free the banks from the hassles of bad loan problem. Subsequently, banks can lend freely to the infrastructure sector. That is enabling environment. And what is the second enabling environment? The second enabling environment is the creation of development financial institution. In fact, for industrial financing needs, the government after independence started with IFCI Limited in 1948. In 1950s, ICICI came up in the private sector. In 1960s, IDBI came up in the government sector. Those were meant for industrial financing. But after the economic reforms of 1991, there was a thought process. These may not be required, and banks can give loans to any project. That was the thought process after liberalization of 1991, and the concept of universal banks came into prominence. Because of that, IDBI was converted into IDBI Bank. ICICI was converted into ICICI Bank. IFCI lost its relevance. So the development finance institutions, they lost their relevance after liberalization, and the burden fell on the banks. The banks lent to infrastructure projects heavily during 2005, 2006, 2007. Subsequently, some of them resulted into bad loans. So now government understood the problem. So government is now going for development financial institution. If you look at China, infrastructure financing is done by development financial institution. So friends, two important aspects for more infrastructure financing. First aspect is government should increase the spending. Government is planning to increase capital expenditure. In fact, the capital expenditure in 2021-22 is around 35% higher than that proposed in 2021 budget. Second is monetization of assets. What is this monetization of assets? You see, now the dedicated freight corridor is getting constructed, and there are a number of airports in the country, and there are a number of highways maintained by National Highways Authority of India. There are a number of ports in the country, and how to increase the money from them. That means when the NHAI constructed this highway, how to increase the revenue. When the Power Grid Corporation of India constructed this high tension wires, or you can say this high tension transmission lines from one place to other place, how to increase revenue, right? From the ports, how to increase revenue. Like that, maximizing revenue. Government, you say defense establishments, you see railways, they have several unused land. Why can't we give land for the private sector development? Why can't we give land for 49 years lease? 99 years lease so that we can get a lot of money because of that. That is asset monetization. Create assets, because you see airports have got several assets. Why can't we hand over the airports to private sector so that the government will get some revenue? They will go for commercialization of the airports. They go for commercialization of railway stations. They build 5-star hotels adjacent to railway stations. They build 3-star hotels adjacent to railway stations. That way what happens? The government land, the railway land, that can be put into use by the private sector, and that is known as asset monetization. Right? So friends, once the National Highways Authority of India constructs a national highway, after that, that can be given for maintenance and for toll collection, and subsequently now NHAI can monetize those. When it is handed to the private sector, then the commercialization of that will be high. So India has got around 7,000 railway stations. There are several prominent railway stations are there, and nearer to the prominent railway stations there is a lot of land available. Why can't we utilize that land for commercial exploitation? Why can't we utilize the land of the ports for commercial exploitation? Why can't we go for some sort of privatization so that we can generate better returns? That is known as asset monetization. Government sector has got several assets. How to maximize revenue through the monetization of that asset? That is the important emphasis in the budget. So friends, through government sector, now the government is planning two things: increase capital expenditure, and at the same time how to in fact get more revenue through monetization of assets. Let me repeat this once again. Monetization of assets is nothing but government has got many assets. How to get more returns on those assets? By handing over to the private sector for 99-year lease, 49-year lease, 35-year lease. At the same time, how can we maximize returns on the government assets? And it involves strategic thinking of handing over the assets to the private sector. Right. So these two things are planned through the government sector. And enabling environment. One is the creation of bad bank. Second one is creation of development financial institution. These two ways, very important. Through these two ways, creation of bad bank, so that banks will be in a position to lend more because they will be freed of the hassles of the bad loans. And the second aspect is the development financial institution, because you see these infrastructure projects, these are having long gestation periods. You cannot expect returns immediately. So for long-term financing, development financial institutions are in fact better suited. If banks are giving loans, then it leads to asset liability mismatch. You see bank deposits, most of the deposits are 2 years duration, 3 years duration, something like that. When they are giving loans to infrastructure projects, they may realize within 20 years, 25 years. That is asset liability mismatch. So friends, development finance institutions are better suited for infrastructure financing. So friends, you cannot bring banks immediately out of infrastructure financing suddenly. But gradually, infrastructure financing is to be handed over to development finance institutions. So friends, the idea or central theme of the budget is you create enabling environment so that private sector can get money from the banks, from the development financial institution easily. At the same time, government should increase capital expenditure. At the same time, government should go for monetization of assets to realize more revenue. Government has got a lot of assets. We should get more revenue from these assets. That is monetization of assets. Friends, disinvestment is different from monetization of assets. Monetization of assets involves maximizing the revenue by putting the assets into proper use. You have constructed a highway. How to get maximum revenue out of it? You have constructed an airport. How to get maximum revenue out of it? Sometimes it involves privatization because private sector may be in a position to better commercially exploit it. So therefore, that is monetization of the assets. Disinvestment means selling the public sector undertakings is disinvestment. This is the basic difference between monetization and disinvestment. Sometimes monetization may also involve selling the government land. That also comes under monetization of assets. Please don't forget. Right. This is the difference between monetization of assets and disinvestment. So friends, till now I explained central theme of the budget. Go for more and more infrastructure spending both by the government and at the same time facilitate environment for the banks and development finance institution to lend to the private sector. This is the central theme of the budget. Friends, all these things are just basics. I need not explain much. Annual financial statement. This is as per Article 112 of the Constitution. Annual financial statement is nothing but what we call budget. Finance bill. This is as per Article 110. Demands for grants. Appropriation bill. So these are primary areas where Constitution comes into picture as far as Union budget is concerned. Not only that, there is FRPM Act of 2003. It demands certain documents to be placed. So friends, overall Constitution, FRBM Act, based on these two, most of the documents are tabled in Parliament as far as Union budget is concerned. Right. Let us look at this slide for a glance. Why I have taken this slide for a glance is what happened in 2020-21 because of COVID-19. Before going into 21-22 proposals, because 2021-22 proposals, they are from next slide. What I have done in this slide is, because of COVID-19, how the projections of budget have gone wrong during 2020-21. 2020-21 proposals were presented last February, and after that, COVID-19 in fact impacted most of the statistics. So friends, how the things went wrong as far as budget of 2021 is concerned. Friends, please don't forget, as far as Union budget is concerned, that gives actuals for the previous year. That means now if you look at the budget for 21-22, it involves 4 columns. The first column is actuals for the last year, that is 2019-20. Revised estimates for the current year, that is revised budget estimates for 2021. So I have taken budget estimates of 2021 and revised estimates of 2021, and whatever is mentioned in this color, that is budget estimates, original budget estimates, and whatever is mentioned in this red, that is revised budget estimates. There is a huge difference as far as current financial year is concerned. Please don't get confused. I am talking about what went wrong because of COVID-19. I am comparing original budget estimates with revised budget estimates for the current financial year 2021. And from next slide onwards, we will look at 21-22 proposals. Right. Let us look at original estimates and revised estimates for 2021. Just have a glance at the revenue receipts. Total were estimated at 20 lakh crores. In fact, originally when the budget was proposed, 20 lakh crores was proposed as revenue receipts of the government. But finally, 15.5 lakh crores, 4.5 lakh crores shortfall. Why this shortfall occurred? This shortfall occurred because of COVID-19. And look at the capital receipts. If you look at capital receipts, all of you are familiar. This disinvestment. Disinvestment is non-debt capital receipt. Please don't forget, disinvestment is non-debt capital receipt. Non-debt capital receipts were planned 2,10,000 crores. That means this disinvestment that is planned rupees 2,10,000 crores. I am talking about non-debt capital receipts through disinvestment. that was planned 2,10,000 crores, but only 32,000 crores could be realized. Friends, if you look at the borrowings, here originally around 8 lakh crores were planned. Just have a glance at it. Originally borrowings were planned 8 lakh crores, but ultimately borrowings in the year 18.5 lakh crores. So friends, finally the total expenditure in the year 2021 as per the revised estimate, please listen carefully, as per the revised estimate, the total expenditure, that is 34.5 lakh crores, out of which, very important, out of 34.5 lakh crores, this 18.5 lakh crores is borrowings and other liabilities. That means in this COVID year, that is 2020-21, out of the central government expenditure of 34.5 lakh crores, 18.5 lakh crores, or you can say more than 50% is through borrowings and other liabilities. So the government finances were affected badly. So because of that precise reason, originally fiscal deficit was planned at 3.5% of GDP, but now it has gone to 9.5% of GDP. Originally, the borrowings and other liabilities, they were planned at 8 lakh crores of rupees, and finally they have gone to 18.5 lakh crores. This is the important thing, please don't forget. From 8 lakh crores to 18.5 lakh crores, the borrowings and other liabilities for the current year increased because of the lack of revenue realization due to COVID-19, and the second reason is the increase in the expenditure because of COVID-19 related activities. Pradhan Mantri Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, and the other important aspect is Garib Kalyan Yojana, and government resorted to several emergency measures subsequent to COVID-19. Because of that, the expenditure increased by around 4 lakh crores, and there is revenue shortfall. There is a shortfall in disinvestment. Because of all these things, in the current year, that is 2021, the government has in fact gone for 9.5% of GDP fiscal deficit, and government borrowings went up to 18.5 lakh crores. Please don't forget. So in a nutshell, out of the total expenditure of 34.5 lakh crores in 2021, 18.5 lakh crores that came through borrowings and other liabilities. So friends, this is the financial status as far as central government is concerned during 2020-21. Out of total expenditure of 34.5 lakh crores, 18.5 lakh crores, more than 50%, they came through borrowings and other liabilities. That is because of COVID-19. Let us leave this aspect here. Let us look at the proposals for budget at a glance for 21-22. Friends, revenue receipts, they are planned at 18 lakh crores of rupees. I am taking in a nutshell. Revenue receipts are planned at 18 lakh crores of rupees. Friends, revenue receipts means they include, please don't forget, revenue receipts include tax revenue, non-tax revenue. I will come to it a short while from now. Then capital receipts. Capital receipts means non-debt capital receipts, debt capital receipts. Non-debt capital receipts example is disinvestment, selling the public sector enterprises shares. So friends, disinvestment target is 1.75 lakh crores. So friends, out of this capital receipts, 15 lakh crores that is expected through borrowings and other liabilities. Just look at the total expenditure projected in 21-22. Friends, in a nutshell, let me tell you, total expenditure projected is 35 lakh crores of rupees. Please listen carefully. Total expenditure projected is 35 lakh crores of rupees. Out of this 35, around 18 lakh crores of rupees is coming from revenue receipts, and around 2 lakh crores is coming, around I am talking about 2 lakh crores is coming from non-debt capital receipts, which include primarily disinvestment. Friends, this is 18, this is a 2, total 20 lakh crores. whether it is revenue receipts or capital receipts for the next year, that is 2021-22, the government revenues, both revenue receipts and non-debt capital receipts, these two put together comes to be around 20 lakh crores. That means out of 35 lakh crores of rupees expenditure projected in 21-22, 20 lakh crores is coming through their receipts and 15 lakh crores is through borrowings. So friends, we have already seen in 2021, the government borrowings and other liabilities are around 18.5 lakh crores. And in the coming year also, in 21-22 also, the government is going to borrow 15 lakh crores of rupees. You may have a doubt how the government is going to get this 15 lakh crores of rupees. Friends, government gets this 15 lakh crores of rupees through market borrowings. And the second way is borrowings from National Small Savings Fund. We in fact save a lot of money through post office saving deposits, Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana, Senior Citizen Savings Scheme. That's all in fact accessed by the government, because government is the banker to small savings fund. So friends, this 15 lakh crores, out of it, partly it is financed by market borrowings and partly it is financed by access to National Small Savings Fund. Right? So the government borrowings are going to be 15 lakh crores of rupees in the coming financial year, and it is going to be 6.8% of GDP, or you can say fiscal deficit is going to be 6.8% of GDP. Revenue deficit, that is 5.1% of GDP, and effective revenue deficit is going to be 4.1% of GDP. I am not going into the basics of the difference between revenue and effective revenue deficit because it takes some more time. Friends, tax revenue receipts. I would like you to spend a few seconds on this slide. If you look at the tax revenue receipts, because we have seen revenue receipts around 18 lakh crores. Out of the revenue receipts, please don't forget, it is tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So friends, if you look at the tax revenue, corporation tax, that is the tax paid by the companies. This is taxes on income, that is the personal income tax, and this is GST. So friends, out of all these tax revenue receipts, the topmost component or highest component is GST, please don't forget. Then comes income tax, then comes corporation tax, right? And customs duty and union excise duties. Union excise duties are basically the taxes on petrol and diesel, because petrol and diesel are not brought under GST. So friends, total tax revenue is this much. All of you are familiar, state's share is to be deducted. State's share, that is 41% of the divisible pool. As per the 15th Finance Commission recommendations, it recommended 41% of the divisible pool, and if you deduct that, center's net tax revenue is around 15.5 lakh crores. Spend a few more seconds on this. We have already seen center's tax revenue, that is around 15.5 lakh crores. In addition to that, you have to add non-tax revenue. What is non-tax revenue? Students must have clarity. Tax revenue, I already explained what are different types of taxes, and non-tax revenue means, suppose say public sector enterprise NTPC, if it declares dividend, that comes under non-tax revenue. And at the same time, spectrum charges, these comes under non-tax revenue. So friends, non-tax revenue includes dividend that is given by the public sector enterprises, transfers by the Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India transfers some amount annually, that comes under this non-tax revenue. At the same time, here, if you see, the third component is a spectrum. The whatever government gets on spectrum, that comes under non-tax revenue. So like that, the government gets around 2.4 lakh crores of rupees. So friends, government need not share with the states this non-tax revenue. Non-tax revenue is not required to be shared with the states. And as far as sharing of taxes is concerned, these are the taxes which are required to be shared with the states. and 41% is the share recommended by 15th Finance Commission, which is accepted by the center. At the same time, cess and surcharge, they are not required to be shared with the states. All of you are familiar about those things, right? So total revenue receipts, that means the tax revenue, non-tax revenue, that means tax revenue and non-tax revenue put together is around 18 lakh crores, right? And if you look at capital receipts, this is in fact non-debt receipts. Non-debt receipts predominantly disinvestment of public sector enterprises, that is non-debt capital receipt. And what is debt capital receipt? Debt capital receipt is nothing but market borrowings, right? So debt receipts are 15 lakh crores. So friends, I have already told you, here you see total expenditure is 35 lakh crores of rupees. Out of 35 lakh crores of rupees, total revenue receipts, here you see that is 18 lakh crores of rupees, and capital receipts, that is 17 lakh crores of rupees. Out of this 17 lakh crores of rupees, 15 lakh crores of rupees is by borrowings and other liabilities. So in a nutshell, the total government expenditure is going to be 35 lakh crores of rupees. Out of 35 lakh crores of rupees, 15 lakh crores of rupees are going to be borrowings. Please do not forget, right? This is a deficit trend. Just to spend a few seconds, it may be useful as far as your prelims examination is concerned. This is fiscal deficit trend. In fact, as per original FRBM Act, it is intended to be 3% of GDP. In fact, government was coming on that glide path and tried to come to 3% of GDP. But unfortunately, what happened? Because of COVID-19, it increased to 9.5% of GDP suddenly. And now, in the next financial year, it is expected to be 6.8% of GDP. Just look at this deficit trend, most important from your preliminary perspective. In fact, prior to COVID-19 year, the deficit, that is fiscal deficit, was 4.6% of GDP. That already increased prior to COVID-19 year. And now in the COVID-19 year, it increased from 4.6% of GDP to 9.5% of GDP and expected to be 6.8% of GDP next year. Just have a glance at the trend in the tax receipts. This talks about gross tax receipts for the center, direct tax and indirect tax. This trend is most important. Here you see, if you look at the direct tax, this is the line. This is the line for indirect tax. Just now you see, indirect tax, direct tax, these are almost the same. Out of 9.9% of GDP, both are close to 5% of GDP. So friends, look at the trend of direct taxes and indirect taxes which are mentioned here. In fact, up to 2018-19, in fact, the direct taxes were more in comparison to indirect taxes. Moreover, in 2019-20 also, direct taxes were more than indirect taxes, but this got reversed in 2021, where indirect taxes are more than direct taxes. This happened because of COVID-19. So friends, here you see it came down from 11.2% to 9.9%. In fact, prior to COVID-19 also, this came down to 9.9%. So trend in the tax receipts and the trend of direct taxes, trend of indirect taxes, these are most important from your exam perspective. Friends, this is the sources of deficit financing. That means we have already seen government is going to borrow, that is 15 lakh crores of rupees. You may have a doubt, how government is going to get this 15 lakh crores of rupees? Predominantly, there are two things. These two things are, one is market borrowings. If you look at market borrowings, they are going to be around 10 lakh crores of rupees. That means out of this 15 lakh crores of rupees, 10 lakh crores of rupees that will come from market borrowings. And the next major aspect is securities against small savings. That means government will borrow from small savings fund. Now the government borrowings from the small savings fund, just look at this line. If you look at this line, it is clearly evident. government borrowings from small savings fund, they are seeing increase in recent years. In the COVID-19 year, they increased to around close to 5 lakh crores of rupees. And in the next year, that means 21-22, the government borrowings against small savings, that is expected to be around 4 lakh crores of rupees. So friends, to bridge the fiscal deficit, to bridge this 15 lakh crores of rupees, how the government is going to get money? To answer this question, out of these 15 lakh crores of rupees, around 10 lakh crores are going to come from market borrowings. And the second aspect is around 4 lakh crores of rupees they are going to get from access to small savings fund. So government is primarily dependent on two things to bridge the fiscal deficit. Let me repeat once again. Out of total 35 lakh crores of government expenditure, 15 lakh crores, that is borrowings and other liabilities. And out of these 15 lakh crores, around 10 lakh crores is going to come from this market borrowings, and around 4 lakh crores that is going to come from access to small savings fund. This is the important point to note. Just have a glance at it. This is the trend of capital expenditure. If you look at the trend of capital expenditure, the capital expenditure through gross budgetary support, that is increasing. We have already seen that the gross budgetary support as far as capital expenditure is concerned, that means government increases its expenditure through national highways, through ports, through railways, through airports. All these things, when government itself is supporting from budget, that is gross budgetary support. When it is being financed by other means, that is extra budgetary resources, right? So friends, if you look at gross budgetary support, it is increasing in recent times. This is the positive thing. I have already explained at the beginning, friends, how the rupee is coming from. Friends, one important aspect is borrowings and other liabilities. They are 36 paise. Please don't forget. Out of each rupee, 36 paise is coming from borrowings and other liabilities. And goods and services tax, that is accounting for just 15 paise. So friends, government is relying on borrowings and other liabilities, especially in the context of COVID-19. How the rupee is going, just have a glance at. States' share of taxes and duties, that is 16, and most important one is interest payments. Government's interest payments are taking away the highest component. When one looks at how the rupee goes away, it is 20 paise. And if you look at important expenditure statistics, here you see the one important aspect is interest payments is around 8 lakh crores of rupees. That's why 20 paise is going for interest payments. This is the largest component, please don't forget. If you look at how the rupee is coming from, the rupee is coming from mostly, or you can say 36% is coming from this borrowings and other liabilities, and 20 paise is going towards interest payments. This is the important point to note, right? And if you look at important expenditure statistics, one point I would like to mention is food subsidy. Now, the government allocated almost close to whatever is required for food subsidy, 2.4 lakh crores of rupees. Till last year, what the government has done, till last year, it allocated less amount and it asked Food Corporation of India to borrow from market. That means the government asked Food Corporation of India to borrow from the market when it is allocating less amount for food subsidy. But now the government clearly said it will allocate whatever is required for food subsidy. It will not ask Food Corporation of India from now onwards to borrow from the market. So therefore, 2.43 lakh crores amount is allocated for food subsidy. So therefore, now Food Corporation of India is not required to borrow from the market. Friends, last year what Food Corporation of India has done is, Food Corporation of India last year that accessed money from National Small Savings Fund to bridge the gap between what government is allocated and what is the actual requirement. Fertilizer subsidy is the second component. Of course, petroleum subsidy is reduced. Anticipating the future reduction in the petroleum prices or whatever may be the reason, it now came down to abysmally low levels. Fertilizer subsidy hovers around 70,000 crores of rupees to 80,000 crores of rupees, right? And Mahatma Gandhi Narega, 73,000 crores of rupees. Friends, in the context of COVID-19, its allocation crossed 1 lakh crores of rupees during 2021. And Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, this is also reduced in comparison to 2021. Friends, in comparison to 2021, these two allocations got reduced. That is, Mahatma Gandhi Narega is reduced and PM Kisan is also reduced, right? And now, before concluding this lecture, I would like to throw some light on what are the highlights of Union Budget. Till now, we discussed about what is the central theme of the budget. I already told you, infrastructure. That is the main theme of the budget. And to create enabling environment for the private sector, that is the core trait of the budget, you can say. And if you look at highlights here, what the government said is, through Atmanirbhar Bharat, 3 packages, all of you are familiar, Atmanirbhar Bharat 1, 2 and 3. There are 3 packages. Through 3 packages and the monetary measures announced by Reserve Bank of India, the government said the total stimulus is 27 lakh crores of rupees and this constituted 13% of GDP. This is the government statement. Other important aspect is government is launching Pradhan Mantri Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana. Friends, Pradhan Mantri Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana, that is primarily to give thrust to primary, secondary, tertiary health care and also to enhance the disease surveillance and also to increase the testing labs across the country. So friends, this is the main tenet of Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana that will be for 6 years more than 60,000 crores of rupees. That is basically to increase the capacity in the public health care. That is strengthening primary, strengthening secondary, strengthening tertiary health care. At the same time, it is to look at proper surveillance and proper testing facilities across the country. Then, vehicle scrapping policy. Now, a vision is unveiled towards scrapping the personal vehicles once they complete 20 years. And for the commercial vehicles, that means trucks, after completing 15 years. There are a number of advantages because of it. First and the most advantage is pollution levels will be reduced, road accidents will be reduced, and at the same time, it will give thrust to the automobile sector. Automobile sector is one of the most prominent sectors of manufacturing in the country. Then, Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. All of you are familiar. Government previously launched Jal Jeevan Mission Rural and government intends to provide 16 crore tap connections through Jal Jeevan Mission Rural. 16 crore tap connections through Jal Jeevan Mission Rural and now through Jal Jeevan Mission Urban, government wants to give 3 crore tap connections. Friends, clean water and proper sanitation, these are most important tenets. Without these things, you cannot ensure perfect health to the citizens of the country. Keeping that in mind, government has gone for sanitation, and that means Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0 that is unveiled. At the same time, Jal Jeevan Mission Urban is unveiled. Jal Jeevan Mission Rural, 16 crore tap connections, and Jal Jeevan Mission Urban, around close to 3 crore tap connections will be provided in the urban areas, right? Complete fecal sludge management and wastewater treatment. So friends, these two you can say, these are towards healthy India. Without clean water, without proper sanitation, you cannot improve the health of the human beings in this country. Keeping that in mind, government launched Jal Jeevan Mission Urban. At the same time, this Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0. Then production linked incentive. This is mentioned in the Union Budget. Already it was announced previously. Production linked incentives. If they are increasing the production with indigenous content, then they will get incentives. This is now 13 sectors. Out of these 13 sectors, prominent sectors are automobile sector as well as mobile phone manufacturing, right? This will be for 5 years period, please don't forget. Then professionally managed development financial institution. I already explained about development financial institution and its requirement in the core thrust of the budget during the initial stages. Then monetization of the assets. I already told you how to optimize revenue, how to increase revenue. The central government has got several core assets in the form of national highways, in the form of expressways, which are built by National Highways Authority of India. It has also built development, this dedicated freight corridor. That means a dedicated freight corridor is going to be commissioned next year. How to maximize revenue out of it? And ports, lot of area is there. How to get maximum revenue out of it? Railway stations, they can be commercially exploited. We can get more revenue out of those stations, right? Then increase in the capital expenditure. India, as I have already told you at the beginning, is planning to increase capital expenditure on its own also, and 5.54 lakh crores capital expenditure, and that is 35% higher in comparison to budget estimates of 2021. Then dedicated freight corridor, all of you are familiar. Western dedicated freight corridor, Eastern dedicated freight corridor, they are going to be completed by June 2022. That means in 2022, these are going to be completed. And another important aspect is expressway, which is being built prestigiously between Delhi and Mumbai. That is going to be commissioned by 2023. Please don't forget. 100% electrification of broad gauge lines by December 2023. Then Metro Light and Metro Neo. That means these are low cost metro rail systems. That means at lesser cost, you can provide connectivity through metro rail. That is Metro Light and Metro Neo. They are going to be unveiled. Then monopoly of power distribution companies, popularly known as DISCOMs. Friends, in spite of government initiatives, government launched Uday. In spite of Uday, government is not able to reform these power distribution companies. Reforms in the power distribution companies, that is not taking place. So now the government said it is going to launch a framework to eliminate monopoly of power distribution companies, popularly known as DISCOMs. Then an independent gas transport system operator for non-discriminatory open access. That means in the gas pipelines, they should have facility for private sector to carry the gas. That means when gas operator, or you can say when independent system operator is there, then it can create a level playing field. The pipeline might have constructed by GAIL, but at the same time, private sector, somebody else can utilize that pipeline for carrying gas. Then investor charter. That means now investors in the financial ecosystem are increasing. People investing in the stock market, people investing in the mutual funds are increasing. Now investor charter is going to be unveiled, which talks about rights of the investors. If I am the investor in the Bombay Stock Exchange, then what rights I must have? When I am investing in the shares, what rights I must have? Foreign direct investment in insurance. Now it is expected that foreign investors, foreign insurance companies, friends, government is making several efforts. But in spite of all these efforts, the penetration of the private sector in the insurance sector, that is not on the expected lines. And to increase private sector participation, now the government proposed increasing foreign direct investment from 49% to 74% in the insurance sector. Then Asset Reconstruction Company Limited and an asset management company. As I have already told you, the banks, at present there are several mechanisms for the banks to solve the bad loans. There is one prudential framework given by Reserve Bank of India. At the same time, they can sell bad loans to asset reconstruction companies which are in the private sector. At the same time, they can hand over the loan to National Company Law Tribunal instead of all these things, because whatever way the banks are looking at, because at present asset reconstruction companies are there in the private sector, and some of the banks tried selling bad loans to those asset reconstruction companies, but success is not there. Now what the government is thinking is there must be one asset reconstruction company and one asset management company, so that the banks can hand over those bad loans directly into these companies, and subsequently they can take care of resolution, they can take care of what is to be done as far as that bad loan is concerned, right? Then 4 sectors are identified as strategic. Finally, now the government identified what are the strategic sectors. In the strategic sectors, say defense, say space, the presence of public sector undertakings will be there. The presence of public sector undertakings in the strategic sectors, they will be minimum. Please don't forget, the government identified 4 sectors as strategic, and in those strategic sectors, public sector enterprises will be kept to the minimum as possible, and in all other sectors, government will exit from the public sector enterprises. That means government wants to give massive drive for the privatization of the public sector enterprises. Accordingly, it identified 4 sectors which are considered strategic. I am going to look at them in the second module, and in this particular module, I am limiting to the major highlights, right? And government is going to give thrust to privatization, that is clearly evident. Then amount paid to farmers under minimum support price mechanism. All of you are familiar. The government procures rice, wheat, cotton, pulses at minimum support price. The government said the government procurement under minimum support price during the past 5-6 years that increased substantially. So friends, the government tried to allay the fears, or you can say government tried to give the message that at minimum support price we are procuring more and more, so farmers should not have any fear on this count. Then multi-purpose seaweed park will come up in Tamil Nadu. Friends, seaweed that has got so many benefits. It is used in nutraceuticals. It is used in the normal cosmetics also. There are several applications in the medical field for the seaweed. Government wants to commercialize seaweed cultivation. For that, first multi-purpose seaweed park that is planned in Tamil Nadu. Not only that, 5 major fishing harbors, they will be developed as hubs of economic activity across the country. Then conciliation mechanism. When there is a dispute between public sector enterprise or government department and contractor, it is taking a lot of time. So therefore, conciliatory mechanism that will be announced. Then deep ocean mission. Basically, there are several minerals at the bed of the ocean. So deep ocean mission that will look at exploration of valuable minerals at the seabed. Not only that, it is to conservation of deep sea biodiversity. Then National Language Translation Mission. National Language Translation Mission, government will launch it so that various Indian languages, they can have access to internet. That means through internet, people will be able to access all government programs in their own language, whether it is Gujarati, whether it is Rajasthani, it should not matter. National Research Foundation. In fact, some time back, government announced National Research Foundation. Now the outline is given. This will have 50,000 crores of outlay during the next 5 years. 750 Eklavya model residential schools in the tribal areas. Glue grant. What is this glue grant? Glue grant is nothing but, suppose you take a city like Chennai, a city like Delhi. There are several top-end educational institutions, but the synergy is missing. To ensure coordination, to ensure synergy, what the government planned is glue grant, that is basically for synergy among various institutions in major cities. Then a legislation will be brought to implement Higher Education Commission of India. As per new education policy, this Higher Education Commission of India is to be established. Now the government said a legislation will be brought to establish Higher Education Commission of India. Friends, this concludes first part of Union Budget. In the first part, we deliberated what is the central theme of Union Budget, what various statistics say, at the same time what are the highlights. In the second part, we are going to deliberate about two prominent themes, or you can say two prominent pillars. And in the third part, we are going to look at four other pillars and critical appraisal. This is all about Union Budget, 3 parts. Please do join for second part and third part also. Have a nice day. Thank you.